And when you're there, it's about authenticity. You've got several things listed there. But be careful that you don't create this one-way communication where you're preaching at people all the time.
Yeah.
I have changed my Facebook. By the way, you have to understand that people on Twitter are different than people on Facebook. Often two different crowds. Some people do not do both. So I don't post the same thing and just have an automatic update to Facebook so everything on my Twitter page fills up my news thing. I get tired of people that do that. In fact, I hit the X on the side and I say block their updates because they fill up my news thing. I don't want to know every time they drank a Coke and every time they did something. On Twitter. So what I'll do is I use TweetDeck right now because it aggregates all the social media I want and I can post to anything I want. But here's what I've found doing. In the morning when I'm reading the Bible, personal devotion, good idea to do for Christians, is spend some time with God. I'll get a verse that speaks to me. I will use YouVersion, and you can click to share it on Facebook, and I'll put a question before it. It has upped the connection rate back and forth. And when somebody answers, I will speak back to them. And you get this conversation going back and forth about applying a verse or praying for somebody. I've had people say, I don't know Christ, can we talk? And what's always weird to me is the people who are my friends that I don't know why they're my friends, but they want to try to lead somebody to Christ on the Facebook wall instead of doing a message to them back and forth. So I'm trying to help that sometimes. But you just got to learn some of the etiquette of Facebook there, or whatever social media you're using. But understand you're going after different crowds. What's your Twitter handle?
Brandon A. Cox.
Brandon A. Cox. I'm Hal Mayer. And so you try. Can I say a few things? I don't think we have this in the notes. Don't use some goofy avatar. Actually put a picture of you on there. Make sure you also, when people look at your Twitter profile, there's a link to click to find out more about your church. Because if you're just saying to somebody, hey, I'm going to pray for you this, they want to know who that is. And they can click and either get to your Facebook page or your church page. I'm still surprised at guys who have a Twitter account and all it has is, the only thing you can get to is their Twitter page. You use About Me?
Yes.
About.me is not on here, but you can write that down. It's a great aggregator of all your places. And so what I do now is my signature on my emails and my Twitter, when I send them to an email, when I send them to a URL, I send them to that because it lists all the places I am online. It lists my church's URL. It's a click. It lists my Facebook. It lists my LinkedIn. It lists all my different social networks and a little bit about me. It's also searchable in Google, but what it allows you to do is if they want to find out about you, they click one spot. Here's the deal. When you're starting a church, you either define you or somebody else will. They will Google your name. When we started, I had people, some to me said, you're the real deal. I said, what do you mean? Well, we Googled you, and I thought, what's a guy like you coming over here to start a church for? You must have blown it big in the past somewhere. I said, well, I've hidden that fairly well, but what I came from was Church at the Springs. And they were able to Google, okay, legitimate, and they will check you out online probably before they'll ever come to your church. And the thing we're seeing now is they watch me teach on Vimeo before they ever show up.
Oh, yeah.
So they've got a feel there back and forth. Talk about some tools there, Brandon.
Well, when it comes to tools, there are a ton to choose from, and some people think in order to really do social media, well, I need to do it all. I would say clarify what the tools are for and how you're going to use them. For me, LinkedIn is all about the professional profile. That is, it's how I relate to other pastors, other people in ministry. With LinkedIn, I'll join groups like the GC2 Network and the Pastors Network, and we'll talk about stories that we're writing or blogging about. We'll learn from each other and connect with people. But LinkedIn is not really what I would consider the most effective tool for a local church or a church plant. When it comes to Twitter, I would still say it's not number one for church plants, although it's very important. It's more about the leader than it is the church or the organization.
Yeah, pause there. Some organizations have their own Twitter accounts and all that, and we'll do that with Next, but they're much more effective when they're personal. The top ones in Twitter search, on the Twitter numbers is always a personal one.
Yeah. In fact, even with the pastors.com Twitter account, my face is on there. And the reason why, we actually stole that idea from a company called Marketing Profs. Ann Handley manages our online community, and her face is the face of Marketing Profs. Your logo's pretty, but a face is more relatable, especially on Twitter. For me, Twitter's a research tool. I'll use it for searching, for cataloging. It's also a connection tool. In fact, I wound up at Saddleback Church because of Twitter. And I used to love to tell people that, see the looks on their faces. How'd you get on staff there? Well, it was Twitter. I was talking about creative design and marketing and this kind of thing. And the right guy saw what I was saying and joined in the conversation, and off we went. Twitter has opened up a new kind of access to people that we've never had before. I know people that I would say I genuinely know. I call them friends. I've met a few at this conference for the first time face to face, but we were already friends because of Twitter. And so understand that as you lead a new church plant, you have a community that wants to know if you're accessible, if you're human or not. Doesn't mean you have to give out your cell number. It just means that you have to be publicly available in some way, and Twitter helps with that.
Let me step in on 2 comments, and I'll let you jump back on there. LinkedIn, I encourage lead pastors to be on there and get some recommendations from other lead pastors in credible churches.
Yeah.
So that when people are searching you, they can look, oh, he knows this guy thinks he's good, this lady thinks. Are you with me? Because especially if you're really young, people want to see what's happened there. And with Twitter, he was talking about the searches. One of the things you can do, you have to go to Twitter's homepage. You can go search, and for example, I'll do this often, and I save the search. I'll do "pray for me" in quotes, and I'll click search. It comes up with thousands of them. But then you can tighten that search, and I'll do 33626. That's the zip code in our area. And what happens there is, then I've got a list of anybody saying "pray for me." I can save that search. And what I can do is when they say "pray for me," I can click the reply and put, man, I prayed for you today. God's best to you. Don't put on there, and by the way, come to Church of the Bay.
Yeah.
Okay? You're missing it. What you're doing is providing value first. So you step into that and you do that and you send that out there. And what people will do, that's why it's important to have links on your Twitter page. They will go, and I've done this. Who is that guy?
Yeah.
Who is that masked man? Yep. And they click on, they go, well, what's that? And they click the About Me, and they see that, and then they can check, and they'll go, oh, that's who's praying for me. I never invited them first, but it allows you on Twitter to start the relationship. And when you're starting a church, you're not in that area yet. This guy here, he's going to Bentonville, Arkansas. He can put that in the Twitter search area, and he can keep up with several different search lines there and start creating some community there, and he's not even there.
Yeah. And a couple practical notes about that. You mentioned the LinkedIn recommendations. When we were writing our master plan for our new church, our prospectus, the last page is an endorsement page. And the way I did that was using LinkedIn.
Okay.
I asked for recommendations on LinkedIn, and what happens is I can print some of those endorsements or snippets from them on that last page, and then at the bottom I'll say, for more, go to my LinkedIn profile, and I'll give the link on the prospectus. So I've sort of doubled up. I've gotten those endorsements on the master plan and on LinkedIn, and I can swap them around and use them interchangeably. And when you were talking about local things with Twitter, another thing we've been doing that's been pretty interesting, because it brought, Mark mentioned earlier getting in the newspaper. We had an interesting thing happen. We created the Grace Hills NWA Twitter account, and the first thing we did is we dug out and found all of the local media representatives, newspaper writers, columnists, the broadcasters on the local news stations, and we created a Twitter list of all of them using our church Twitter account and just called it local media. Well, when we put them on a list, they noticed that we've put them on a list. We got notice. They did a story about this new church, and it brought contacts our way. So just tuning into local is big on social.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just a key piece there. Understand what you're doing. The thing that I have seen that happens, if people don't understand the big why behind it, they're not thinking except, okay, they said do that, so I got a Twitter page. Okay, do that, so I got that. And that means nothing. In fact, that may hurt you more. If you have a blog and you haven't posted to it in 6 months, please hide it. You know? Because it looks like you've left the world. You know, people want to know. So you're going to have to, what Brandon said earlier, decide which ones you're going to sit on, decide which media pieces are important, work with those, and leave the others alone, because just to start all those pages doesn't mean anything. But to chase that, I love what you're doing with your media. I'm going to go back and do that. I haven't done that, so that's a pretty cool idea.
It makes inroads. It's a good thing. When it comes to Facebook, for me, the big tip, I mean, there's all kinds of things you can talk about with content groups, events, everything else, but the biggest thing is make everything likable. Make your website likable, your page likable, your staff page that's about you, put a like button for you next to you and for each of your staff members. Every sermon series, every sermon, every video in a sermon series. Why? Because the like button is it's the dumbest thing ever invented. And what I mean by that is all somebody has to do is click. And when they click, Facebook automatically grabs a thumbnail and a snippet of that story and puts it on their page. It's the dumbest way to advertise in history, and yet it's so powerful. You ought to have a like button on everything you possibly can.
And if you don't know how to create that, just Google it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Facebook makes it easy. They'll spit the code out and you just paste it in. A friend of mine named Joe Wood, he's planting Reverb Church over in Parker, Colorado. And when they were just starting to gather their launch team and had just started having their earliest services, they decided they'd do a 24-hour-long prayer service. And so they planned and poured all kinds of money and resources into this, and they started out the night and had about 100 people show up. And Joe kept thinking to himself, this is great, I'm loving this, but we put a lot of energy into this for just 100 people. How can we expand that audience? Well, they were broadcasting it live to Facebook, to their Facebook page, using Ustream. And so here's what he did. About every 5 minutes, one of the leaders of that 24-hour service would stop and point up, and they would say, hey, if you haven't already, would you click the like button? And so on the Facebook page, they're pointing up at the button. By the time the 24 hours was finished, they had over 100,000 people who had clicked through to that page because the friends of all of those people clicking like were coming, and they had over 1,000 people report they'd made a profession of faith in Christ. Because
I haven't done that.
Yeah, put like on everything, and then it's so dumb. All you got to do is click like. But just think how much.
You keep saying dumb. Are you saying I could do it then, or what? I mean, I'm trying to figure out where you're going with that.
I wasn't gonna say that, but the other thing is just tell them what to do. What do we want you to do with this? Please click like. And saying please click like will double the amount of people that actually click it than if you just leave it sitting there.
Very cool. All right, your communication strategy. Let's talk a minute about that. I'm on page 31 now. I know some of y'all been whining about not having the notes when I've gotten up here, and I've got something I'm going to tell you at the end of this session that'll probably make a few of you smile. Any of y'all been looking for the notes? Yeah, me too, and I found them. So I'm going to tell you at the end, but you got to stay till then and then press like.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's right.
Design a communication strategy. Think mobile. Now, when you think mobile, you need create your website to automatically, you need to create it so somebody with an iPhone or somebody with a Droid or somebody with something else, when they go there, it's mobile. Ours is just getting changed to that now. Yeah. Is your website mobile already?
Oh, yeah.
No, I figured. Anyway, but ours is going, but think that way because you've got to be able to read the site and pick your most important things. And also, who's your target on mobile? Probably the first-time guest. So again, make sure it's times, directions, easy buttons they can push, whatever. We also have a giving button on there just in case people are wanting to give when they're at church, and they can just click there and go. But think mobile, and jump into the next piece.
Yeah, also think about the flow of daily life. As you are on Facebook and Twitter, how many of you are night owls? I mean, you just love the night. Yeah, well, a lot of the people you're trying to reach are not. They may not be online at 1 a.m. when you had that brilliant idea. So it's a good idea to think about the flow of people's lives. We've discovered at pastors.com that typically people tend to look at things that are a simple, inspirational signal early in the morning. When they're getting up, when they're getting to work, the Bible verse, the simple question. In the afternoon, we found they're reading news. So we try to post a lot of links to articles in the afternoon time. And then in the evenings, they're sitting in front of Facebook for 2 hours carrying on some kind of a conversation. So as we post things, we're trying to think about the flow of people's lives. We don't post the same things on Saturday and Sunday that we do Monday through Friday. And we try to tailor it to the schedules that people are living by.